Sure.
And then on your right, you're gonna see chat stuff pop
okay.
there. So, hello everybody. Welcome back to another episode of At Home with Mark, episode number 12. Today, I am super pumped to have a gentleman that I've been watching for years on YouTube, and every NAMM, man, I just watch you all the time.
You're the guy leaving those comments.
Yeah, I have a great story to tell you, by the way. But, ladies and gentlemen, Jason Shadrick is on the show today, so welcome.
Thanks for having me. Thanks so much.
Man. While we're on that tip, I have a funny story for you. So Adam Miller is going to be on the show in November.
Good buddy, yes.
Yeah, and he was on Premier Guitar. This was maybe 2 years ago.
Okay.
And he was playing, and I was the dude in there that was like, does this guy listen to Bill Frisell? And he was like, yeah. And then I said something else like, does he also listen to it? And he was like, yeah. Oh my God. And then like we connected right after that. And let's start
you commented on the video? Or
yeah,
cool.
And you said something like, oh, somebody's talking about your influence, heavily by Bill Frisell. Can you comment on that? He was like, yeah, dude. So we got to know each other.
You meant when he, not a NAMM video, but when he came to the office.
Yeah, he was playing.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. So that was a cool moment because I'd never heard of him. And that's the thing I love about watching you and all your, compadres every NAMM is like you guys do the best like interviews and coverage of what stuff that I want to see,
Thanks, man.
So,
it's funny. I've been going to NAMM shows for maybe 13 years and I've never gone and not worked.
Mm-hmm.
And it's great to hear that people really like that because if you ask any one of us, like what's NAMM, it's a very difficult experience because we shoot 20, 30, 40 videos depending on the year in 4 days.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a, up early and go to bed late type of 4 days, and even though Disneyland is right across the street, we ain't got time for that.
Yep. I know. I went 1 year, man, and I saw you guys walking around. I didn't bother you guys, but
in Anaheim.
I went 1 year. I was there with Berkeley, because so they were going to do some like networking and stuff with different companies to try to get some partnerships and deals for our students on gear.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, it's been like a bucket list item for me to go to that for forever, man. And the head of Berkeley Online was like, we'll put you up, just pay for your airfare. You can, we'll put you up with, this other dude that works there and you guys can share a room. And I was like, oh my God, sweet. So when I went, I showed up on Wednesday and they were already in there talking to people and stuff. And I walked in and was like, couldn't find anyone. And I was just walking around and I came out. They were like, we're out here, meet us for lunch. And I walked out and my boss was like, your eyes were like gigantic. Like you did not expect to see this spectacle.
The noise level alone, especially like, Saturday, 2:00 or whatever.
Oh man.
It's beyond words. And it's, and I don't know what NAMM's going to look like going forward, but it's, I mean, we already got sick coming home from NAMM just about every year as it was. So
I know, dude. Well, just know that there's one dude at least, like I like wait for that every year. It's for when you guys are popping new videos, and you guys and Andertons basically are the two channels that I watch all the reviews and stuff. But I definitely follow that stuff and I look forward to it every year.
Oh, cool. Well, thanks for checking it out, man.
Yeah, man. So, the first thing that I usually do on these episodes, because this is like a chronological kind of walkthrough. We'll do a little bit of a timeline, is basically just understanding what the moment was for you that you were like gravitating towards guitar, that you wanted to play music. Like, do you remember a specific moment that happened?
Yep. Exactly. I had a friend in middle school named George who played guitar. And I was like, wow, that's really cool. And then, so it's like 7th, 8th grade. And then probably would have been maybe the summer after 8th grade. It would have been summer 95. I was a Boy Scout and I took a trip out to New Mexico to do like a 2-week backpacking trip. And one of the leaders on this trip, Dave, he was crazy, man. He carried a guitar the whole trip. And I remember one night going over to the guitar and like plucking a string. And I was like, wow, that's cool. So that was like early August of 95. August 17th, 1995, Dave Matthews Band was coming to town. begged my parents to let me go. It's like, birthday, sure, it's your birthday. You're 14. Let's go do it. And I was like blown away. It was like $20 ticket. It was in a small auditorium. It was the very next show. The Live at Red Rocks album.
Mm-hmm.
It was the very next show.
Oh wow!
Was in Davenport, Iowa, and Dionne Farris opened the show. She was great, and they played this song at the end for their encore. And I'm like, wow, I've heard this song. I had no idea this was their song. And so that's August. I told my parents, I really would like a guitar for my birthday. They said, oh, let's wait till Christmas. So in August, I started spending my allowance on buying guitar magazines. And I started to learn it. These names would pop up. Who's this guy? Who's this? And I'd go to the library and check them out. And I'd start to learn how to read tab before I even had a guitar. And then any chance I get, I'd go to the local guitar store and just look. Just see. I'm literally looking, what's the cheapest guitar in this room? Because then I know, right? So finally, Christmas '95, I get a guitar. I start learning more. And then I think back to that song that Dave Matthews played. And I heard another version of it. I was like, oh, wow. Why is... And I was like, this can't be. Jimi Hendrix cannot be covering a Dave Matthews song. It was all along the Watchtower. Exactly, yeah. And there's been several times in my life where I've come across a song or an artist playing a song or even a different era of an artist's output and very naively just took it at face value without going back and doing my homework at that time. But yeah, it was Dave Matthews Band, made me want to play guitar. So that was it. And then the real musical moment, as far as that goes, was around that time is when From the Cradle came out with Eric Clapton. Mm-hmm. And he has a song on there. It's like track 12, Someday After a While. And he plays the intro, and then the first bend from G to A that he plays, like the sixth note of the song, like has so much fire in it. I was like, that's I need to learn how to do that. So Clapton has been my guy from day one. I've seen him a bunch of times, but those two things, or three things, going on that backpacking trip and touching that guitar for the first time, going to see Dave Matthews Band, and tie that into eventually getting a guitar, and then hearing From the Cradle, that album by Eric Clapton. That wore me out.
I got to go back to that record. I haven't heard that record in a long time, man.
So good, man. It's so good. It's such a record. It's a fun record just to play along with too. Yeah. Because you can figure out the keys pretty easily. Every note on that record's already been transcribed too. So if you really wanted to get into the minutia of it all, you can. That was one of the first tab books I got, was From the Cradle. That's
awesome. Did you so when you were like learning tab before you even had a guitar, when you finally got your guitar, did you feel like it was like a quicker progression wise for you to kind of jump into it?
Oh, I think so, yeah, because I'd have Guitar World there and I'd open it up. The first song I learned out of Guitar World was My Friends by the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Mm-hmm. And just the first four notes I was able to pick up like instantly almost, because I knew that's like, okay, 0 means open string, 2, okay. Didn't sound very good, but I knew what I was playing was right. Was lined up with what was on the page. But yeah, that was the first song I tried to play and learned. And then my uncle is a really good banjo player, and he also played a little guitar. So I remember my parents sending me down. I'd walk over to his house, and it's like Christmas Day or the day after, and I'd sit there with my guitar, and he taught me like G, C, and D, and he wrote them out for me, and then that was it. It just kind of took off. But I was always a guitar magazine junkie from before I could play guitar.
Yeah, that's so cool. So did you like continue to like work on your own, or did you work with an instructor for a while besides your uncle? Or
that was the only lesson I ever took from him. But yeah, I took lessons with a local guitar teacher for about 2 years. And then kind of after that, I was just, anytime I see buddies in town, like, hey, show me what you're doing there. And I was a voracious reader of guitar player less. I used to have a 3-ring binder, which is probably around here somewhere. I used to, in undergrad, when I was in college, I'd go to the basement of our library, and they would have all the back issues of Guitar Player, and I would photocopy all the lessons, all the columns out of that, and I'd keep it in a 3-ring binder.
That's awesome.
And a lot of those lessons were written by a guy named Andy Ellis, who, fast forward full circle, my second year of working, maybe it's my first year working at Premier Guitar. We walk into a meeting and my boss says, "Hey, we've hired a new editor. It's Andy Ellis." And I'm just like, what? Like, it was literally like, "Hey, our new basketball team, we just hired Michael Jordan."
Right.
You know, and so for 10 years, Andy was like my co-editor on hundreds and hundreds of lessons.
That's
and
awesome.
then now he's my co-host on the Chasing Freds podcast that I do.
Man, that's so cool.
Yeah.
That's like that is
So
a full circle thing, man.
Oh,
That's great.
I remind Andy of that constantly.
He's like, all right, buddy. All right.
Yeah.
So you know what? I just wanted to like dive into this. This wasn't on my list of questions for you, but like bringing up like Watchtower.
Mm-hmm.
Are there other covers that bands played that really knocked you off your chair? Like there's a couple for me, like Jamie Cullum's version of Lover You Should Have Come Over, or like, you know what? There's so many great covers, but is there one for you besides like hearing Watchtower that was like, whoa?
Well, Jeff Buckley's Hallelujah is a big one.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's a good question. Covers. I'd say one guy who's really good at covers, who's not even a guitar player, I listen to a lot right now, is Ben Rector.
Oh yeah.
He's great. His band is killing. That's a good question. I mean, Watchtower is the most obvious one for me. And I mean, looking back, the entire From the Cradle album was all covers, you know. Of course, I'm literally staring at it right now. Los Lobos doing La Bamba. I would put that up. I would put that above anything because 7 years old, I would play air guitar to La Bamba. And a couple of years ago, my wife got me an LP cover signed by Los Lobos. And it's literally staring at me right here on my wall. That's by far that Los Lobos La Bamba.
Oh, that's so great. I was talking to Ariel about that because there's certain artists that I never would have heard of had I not heard this artist I already love cover one of their songs I didn't know was a cover at the time. But now I'm like, oh, now I'm hip to this dude because of this, you know, record or whatever it is. I love that stuff, man. Like anytime there's an album that comes out and there's a cover on it, I don't want to hear it done the exact same way as the original. I want to hear it, you know, a little bit of like, you know, artist liberty. I want to hear them do something a little bit juicy with it. You know what I mean?
Have you heard of The Bird and the Bee?
No.
The Bird and the Bee. I was just listening to it this morning.
Is that Noel George's daughter?
No. No. I don't think so. Maybe. I don't know. The Bird and the Bee did a whole album of Van Halen covers, but they do it in a complete like modern pop, like Taylor Swift type way.
Okay. It's
like if Taylor Swift did an album of Van Halen covers.
Oh, that's cool. I'll check it out, man.
I don't think there's not a single note of guitar on the whole album.
Okay.
It's all like synths and drum loops, and then a female vocalist who, she's very breathy, airy sounding tone. It's completely like I started playing for my wife, and you kind of know, like you would probably know, like you start playing Panama, you'll start hearing the musical motifs come through, but then when the lyrics start, you're like, what is this? This Panama? Yeah, that would be my thing. And even our dude, the Landreth fellas are excellent at covers. I mean, their Undercover Brothers record. I remember really digging into their Reeling in the Years.
Oh yeah. That record's great too, man. Oh, all right. So, what was the path? So, tell me a little bit about the path. Like, we don't have to spend a lot of time on this, but the path to Premier Guitar. How that ended up working out and how you got into like publication and editing and all that.
Okay. The quick version is I was in undergrad. I did my undergrad at Minnesota State and I did my master's degree at University of Northern Iowa. And during undergrad, I have a music business degree and I needed to do an internship. And one of the things you saw it too is I always see these ads in guitar magazines for this guitar camp called the National Guitar Workshop. And I grew up in Iowa, and my family couldn't afford to send me to LA or Connecticut to go to one of these camps. I'm like, what the hell? I'm going to just say, hey, I'm looking for an internship. I emailed them, a week later. They called me back. We talked for a little bit, got hired. So I started to be in this. So the first summer I was like a RA, like you'd see in a dorm, right? And then I would travel around and do that. Second summer I became a assistant director, and then I became a director. And then by the time I kept doing that all through college. By the time I graduated from grad school, they hired me and my wife full time to work out there. So we moved from Iowa to Connecticut for a couple of years. One of my duties there, well, I was mainly in charge of booking all the guest artists. So anybody from Pat Metheny to Buddy Guy to Steve Vai to Petrucci to you name it. We've James Valentine, Guthrie Govan, all of them have come through. And but one of the other duties I had was to handle all of the buying ads in the guitar magazines. You know, so I'd have contacts at each one. And my contact at Premier Guitar, Gary, who's still with us today, it's like, oh, you're from Iowa. You should next time you come home for the holidays or Christmas, you should swing by the office. Okay, cool. So coincidentally, my mom had just moved to Cedar Rapids, and the first summer I was going, my son had just been born. First summer we're going back. She emails me directions to her place because I hadn't been there yet. Premier Guitar emails me directions to their place, and I'm looking at them, and they're exactly the same until the last line. Wow. And it turns out my mom lived a block from the office.
Oh, my God.
Crazy, right? So I go, I'm home for Christmas. We go, we meet. And then so that was that was actually December of 2009. And then by March of 2010, I moved back to Iowa. Because they were like, they kept asking, like, are you sure you want to move to Iowa? And I'm like, I'm from here. My mom lives a block away. All my family's here. I have a new kid. Like, yeah, I really want to live in Iowa, you know? So that was kind of the long and short of how that came through. As I went from college, moved out to Connecticut, worked for the National Guitar Workshop, met a ton of people, and then moved back to Iowa to start working for Guitar Magazine in 2010. And then by, I think, 2011 is when the National Guitar Workshop went out of business. So,
okay. Man, you have so many like full circle situations going on, and you're just in the beginning of your career, man. It's so cool.
And I haven't even told you about like a couple of the biggest ones. Like one of the biggest ones was I got to hold Dave Matthews' guitar, his Taylor, that a lot of people know about, on stage at Wrigley to an empty Wrigley Field. I mean, I'm like, this is one of the guitars that, like, the guy who plays guitar is one of the guys who made me want to play guitar.
Right. Did you almost throw up on the
guitar? A little bit. Or I got to play Billy Joe Armstrong's BJ Fernandez. Oh, man. I got to actually play that through the amps that he used at Woodstock in the mud fight, Pete and me. And because I told the tech, I was like, I'm sorry, can I just have like a picture with the guitar? He's like, oh, sure, man. He hands it to me. I put it on, and I'm just kind of like strumming it, and I'm not paying attention. And then he goes over and goes click, 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 click. And then the whole thing, like the whole rig is pumped through is an arena.
Oh, man.
And I'm just like, I couldn't bring myself to play Green Day riff at that moment. I couldn't do that. But we did. I did get to play that. And that's the album, that Dookie album is how I learned how to play power chords.
Oh, yeah, for sure, dude.
I'm sure a million other people too.
Was that pushing a ton of air behind you? Were you like, like Marty McFly?
I don't think, no, because I was like over on the side stage, kind of, you know, like where a tech would be or whatever. And I'm playing it. And then I'm like, because I didn't know exactly what it was at first. And I look and it was the sound of the rig coming out of the mains in an arena.
Yeah.
So I wasn't in front of a cabinet.
Yeah.
But I could hear it coming back at me. Man, you know.
That's cool.
But yeah, it was Pete and Neat. He had these two Marshall heads that have been with him for, I mean, that's his sound. Yeah. You know, and not a lot of things work on that guitar except the pickup, the volume knob, and the strings, really. I mean, that's the only remaining elements of that guitar that are functioning.
Are there any other like stories like that just from your job where you had you got to meet some people? Like, have you ever gotten like starstruck, or are you just kind of so used to this now?
I tell you the most. I mean, you get used to it after a while. It's like, you know, you want to be cool, you want to be professional, the whole deal. The one time I was really two times. It happened the same weekend. Was the one time I was going to Chicago to cover the first Eric Clapton Crossroads Festival in Chicago. And the night before, they were having a party at the House of Blues, and a good buddy of mine, Pete Hutlinger, was playing at the House of Blues, and he was opening for Los Lobos. And we're sitting upstairs in the back room, and Pete and I are hanging out. He's restringing his guitar, and the Los Lobos guys walk in, and I was like, my jaw, I couldn't even. I didn't say hi. I just probably awkwardly stared at them as they walked by. And Pete's like, and Pete noticed, like, "You okay?" I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Let me just tell you a quick story." And I told him how I was 7 years old and I play air guitar to that movie over. I'd wear it out. He's like, never got to actually meet them at that time. So that was the one time. And then the next night, that was probably like a Thursday night, I think, because then Friday night we went to another pre-party, and it was at Buddy Guy's club, and Jimmy Vaughn was playing, and this guitar player that nobody knew anything about was opening for him. His name is Gary Clark Jr. And we're sitting there, and you look around, Mark. If I told you like Johnny Lang is there, Kenny Wayne Shepherd's there, like anybody, Sonny Landreth strolling around, and then I'm standing there, and 10 feet away in walks Jeff Beck and sits 2 seats in front of me. And the air in the room changed, and everybody knew he had just walked in.
Yeah. And
Buddy's up there playing with Jimmy, and he looks over, he looks down at Jeff Beck, and he's like, "How many of y'all want to hear Jeff Beck play some blues?" Right? And by the time he went over to say, "Come on up, Jeff," Jeff had disappeared.
Oh man.
Jeff had gone. And it was his birthday too. It was Jeff Beck's birthday.
Oh man!
And so those are the two times where I felt like frozen, being. And I'm sure, if I ever get the chance to meet Clapton, that would be. I probably feel the same. But I did interview Clapton via email one time.
That's cool.
I'm happy with that. I'm so happy with that.
Oh man, I can't imagine so. Johnny Lang. I mean, I love. The album Turnaround totally
great.
Put me on a different trajectory at that time when I heard that. But to be in a room with all those cats sitting there, I feel bad for Buddy Guy though. Jeff Beck leaves you hanging. I guess if anyone's gonna leave you hanging, it's all right. It's Jeff Beck.
But Buddy Guy's whatever. I'm sure Jeff probably. I mean, I get the feeling Jeff's a finicky guy, and he probably doesn't like to be put on the spot, no matter even if you are Buddy Guy.
Right. That's
but if anybody could get away with putting Jeff on the spot, and Jeff be like, it's cool, it's Buddy, I'm sure.
Yeah, so great, man.
But I mean, rig rundowns so many. My first rig rundown was with Brad Paisley. That's the very first one I did.
Nice.
That was a real fun one. What else was a good one? Jeez. Oh, of course, Brian May. That's the one everybody asked me about.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we flew up to Detroit for that one, and me and Chris Keys and we got to hang in catering all afternoon. His tech Pete was awesome. Hooked us up with tickets for the show. It was an incredible show. The Palace Auburn Hills. And Brian could not have been cooler. I mean, he was, and it's funny because near the end, the publicist kind of sticks her head in, and Brian shoos her away. She's like, no, I'm talking to these guys. Leave me alone.
Oh, that's cool.
So yeah, that one was really. Excuse me. That one was that was a big one, and that's probably our most popular one.
Yeah, I mean, it's been cool to watch those through the years too, because there's been artists that I've been introduced to that I didn't know about.
Me too, man. Especially since we moved all that down to Nashville now, though. Each week will pop up. We have a calendar that shows what's coming up, and sometimes I look at it, sometimes I don't. But I'll have to edit some text that goes with the one. I'm like, oh, I'm not familiar with this person whatsoever, And it came. I think we're gonna get Joey Landreth on soon.
Nice, that's awesome. Mm-hmm. I'm sure John has a lot of good stories too. When I saw his episode pop up with Derek Trucks, I was like, this is gonna be boring as hell because all he does is plug straight into the amp. But it was still great. It was still. I mean, I was like, it's amazing. And
I love people who go you guys ever thought about doing one with Eric Clapton? And I'm like, write that down, somebody, because But then again, it'd be a lot like Derek. It'd be so boring. He'd be like, here's my guitar. He might have a wah or something, and then here's my amp that's cranked up. That's gonna be it.
I've been waiting for the day for you guys to do Pearl Jam.
We've tried, and we've tried. Oh yeah. I mean, a lot. I mean, Foo Fighters. We've tried for years, literally 8-9 years. You know?
Yeah.
But some people don't want to do it for one reason or another. Then sometimes it's logistics that don't work out, and so yeah, it's. I mean, you can't name an artist that we haven't tried. I mean, I don't know if we've actually tried for Clapton, just because he doesn't tour as much, and he hasn't kind of, you know, back when live music was coming around, he didn't really come around to where we could, you know, reasonably do it. So
he's like the GOAT. I mean, it's hard to capture the GOAT sometimes, man.
I mean, and I it's true. It's true. We've gotten some. I mean, I strangely at another rig rundown met his tour manager, and I was there just hanging. I wasn't even doing a rig rundown. I was just hanging with somebody, and they said, "Oh," they introduced him. He's like, "Yeah, he's also." And this person knew I was a big Clapton. Oh, yeah, he's Eric's tour manager. I'm like, "Tell me everything. Like, I want to know everything." And come to find out, like on the last run, he had played like a private party in Chicago, and that was like the closest he'd been in years, you know. But we always have our feelers out there, and you know, when those people, we keep very close eye on. Well, when touring was a thing, we keep very, very close eye on who's coming around. Occasionally, people will reach out and do it, or we'll meet somebody who's a tech on this one, and you know, it happens to be a tech on this other thing too. So that could, like, our first really big one was Rush, and that came by through like a tech connection, you know, because Scott, Alex licensed tech, is also tech for Def Leppard, so we knew him through that. And that kind of thing, and the stuff that we do, the content we produce. I mean, every guitar tech in the world watches them all. You know?
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
So they all know us. You know, as soon as we walk in the room, they all just like
nice
give us the nod, and yeah, man, here's our cards. If you ever coming around, because they like, you know, they like hanging and talking to other guitar nerds as well.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, it's kind of like a community that likes to like nerd out about this stuff. So it's like, you know, and let's jump into the jam band thing because I think that's the other thing is I was like waiting for Mo to show up on that rig rundown thing.
We've done one, Tim.
Oh, did you?
Oh yeah, we've done one with Mo for sure.
When was that? I missed it.
A number of years ago. It was when they were in Nashville. I know, but yeah, search Mo rig rundown. It's there.
Oh, okay.
We've done the white whale, so to speak, is Fish.
Yeah.
There again, we've tried and we've asked, and we've said, please, come on, and you know, they have their reasons, totally fine, but we will keep asking because Trey's a big guy for me. And,
talk a little bit about that. I want to hear about that. I'm a huge Fish fan.
Yeah, like to me, they are like when it comes to group improvisation like that. I mean, when they're on, it's super hard to. They're super hard to beat when it comes to hearing. You know, they're such deep listeners, and they're so prolific. And I've only seen him a couple times, but yeah, he's just. I mean, the way he does these like pre-bends and how he mixes staccato notes in his lines. That's the things that when I hear him solo, that tell me that that's Trey. You know, or if I hear somebody do that, and in the late '90s, a lot of jam bands cats, you would hear, you know, some muted stuff, some pre-bend and release type stuff, and then your tone, like you hear Jason Flabger from Big Woo, like that was one thing I heard in his playing right away. I'm blanking. Who's the guy from String Cheese? The mandolin player.
Yeah, I never got into them totally heavily. I mean, I was into Panic, Widespread.
Yeah. And see, with Michael, I didn't hear that. Michael had his own thing going on. And even with Jimmy, I don't hear that. Jimmy's one of my all-time favorite. Like, talk about a rig rundown story. I filmed the first rig rundown with Jimmy. I'd flown out to North Carolina. He was doing this, like, weekend workshop. And so I flew out. It was in the studio, and his band played 2 nights for, like, 40 people.
Yeah.
blistering loud. We ended up shooting that rig run at like 2 a.m. Because it was like after the gig and everything. But he's an all timer, man. All timer. Yeah. He is.
I mean, the whole Jazz is Dead. That whole series, man. I mean, I remember hearing. I can't remember if it was Row Jimmy when Derek and he were playing on that. The end of that is so visceral and like, and I remember listening to it, and I probably was in college. I was maybe sophomore college when I started getting into that, and my dad like came in the room, and to him it sounded like thrash metal because of how fast Jimmy plays sometimes and stuff. And I was like, no, that's not what this is. Like, this is the kind of thing I want to attain in my fingers. And I'm like, I'm not a fast player. That's just not what I do. That's not my thing. But like, if I could like model any kind of playing, how clean he is like,
so good.
It's like out of control, clean and precise. And even if you hear him play something that doesn't sound right, he meant to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's funny because I've been listening to him since the Aquarium Rescue Unit days. And then when I was at the workshop, I had the chance, like, oh, hey, we're doing a jam week. Who should we book as a guest artist? It's like, you got it. And it was, I brought in Jimmy Herring and O'Teal together.
Oh, yeah.
And so I got to spend a couple days with those guys. And then anytime Jimmy would come around, we'd hang, or I'd go out to that workshop. And just coolest guy, man. Anytime I need a quote for an article from him. I did one of my most favorite features I ever did was I had Alex Skolnick interview Jimmy Herring for a Widespread album feature or something. And one of the things that came out in that piece was, and Alex was a big Aquarium Rescue Unit fan back in the day too, so he was really aware of Jimmy's playing for a long time. And was after Aquarium Rescue Unit was over the first time, and before he joined Panic, probably a number of years before he joined Panic, he didn't have a gig. And so Jimmy called Alex and wanted to know if he could be Alex's guitar tech. And he kind of revealed this to Alex in the moment on the interview. Alex is like, I definitely remember us talking around that time, but I did not get the vibe that you were looking for a gig. And Alex said, quite frankly, I would have said, hell no, I'm not having Jimmy Herring tech for me. No. Like how, like, no, he's one of the greatest cats in the world. Like, and then I think things worked out and then he joined Panic and all was good. But yeah, that was one thing. It just it's funny, like still hearing the tape of like, I still hear in my head of Alex's reaction to like, what? You wanted to, no.
You want to work for me?
Yeah, like, right. Like, no. I don't think so, dude. I don't think so.
Man, what are the so like, yeah, so we've got, Fish, Panic, Umphreys.
Umphreys was a cool one. Those guys are one of the best prog bands like in the world. Like, I tell people, it's funny because you can, if somebody, like if you had a friend says, hey, I want to like understand more about what these jam bands are like, whatever background they come from, whatever music they're into outside of jam bands, let's say, there's a jam band for you. Like if you're really into jazz, then, hey, check out Soul Live. If you're really into bluegrass, hey, check out Leftover Salmon or String Cheese. If you're really into Southern rock, okay, cool, check out Widespread. If you're really into Frank Zappa, hey, go check out Fish. So no matter, I love it when people ask me like, hey, how do I get into jam bands? And I'll be like, well, give me your 3 favorite acts. And if one of them is like Rush or Dream Theater, I'm like, oh, go check out Umphreys.
Yeah.
Because those guys are absolute wizards.
Yeah. I mean, that stuff, I was talking to Paul Masano about that when he was on here because, he's kind of more jumped into the jam band thing in the past couple years. That's been my whole life. So when I was talking to him, I was like, man, have you listened to Anchor Drops yet? He was like, no. And I was like, that's by far my favorite Umphreys record. Like you need to go listen to that whole album. That thing, I mean, I think that was my entry point, really. I got into them a little bit later. We actually my old band played a show when we were touring and Umphreys was on. It was like a festival thing. It wasn't Bonnaroo. It was like a smaller festival. And there was like a compilation CD, I remember, from Bonnaroo that we had heard them. It was like Hurt Bird Bath.
Yeah.
Was like the song that was on that compilation. And I was like, eh. But then when I heard Anchor Drops, I was like, holy shit. This thing, like the whole record, like sonically, like songwriting wise, like arrangements, all that stuff was just like next level.
That's a funny thing. When I was working at the workshop, I remember I reached out to their manager for something. I think I was looking to book Jake and Brendan for like a jam week or something. And, you know, naturally with these summer guitar camps that I was working on, summertime and jam bands don't mix well, especially if you're trying to book them, right? Because that's their time.
Mm-hmm. And
I got to talking to him, and then I got to know Jake, and Jake was a student at the National Guitar Workshop. He had like won a scholarship when he was a kid. And he'd actually come out. Actually, Trey and Mike from Fish had come to the Guitar Workshop like the first or second year it was open. And they actually wrote a couple Fish tunes at the workshop.
Really?
Yeah. I used to have on my desk in Connecticut, I used to have Trey's student application, his original student application with like his dad signed it and everything.
Oh my God.
I remember I sent that to Kevin Shapiro, the Fish archivist, when I was there. And so it's now in the Fish, a copy of it anyways, in the Fish archives. But yeah, man, Humphreys is just crazy great. They're one of the best. I mean, I think it's funny how like a lot of jam bands, people like, they'll go see them and they're like, well, this is the best cover band in the world. Like, because Humphreys can play anything and they can play several things at once. Like the mashups, that album they did.
Yeah. What was the one they did? They did Closer, Nine Inch Nails with Come Together or something like that.
I remember like Fat Bottom Girls with I can't remember their tune that they did with it, but it's just incredible. I remember my band tried to like, is there something like that we could do? And we're like, no. No, it's one thing to do like song, segue into song. But to be able to mix up the parts takes another level of arranging skills and rehearsal that is just unparred. I mean, unequaled.
Yeah. I think that whole time, like 97. So I saw Fish play at Virginia Beach Amphitheater right before Story of the Ghost came out. And the first 4 songs were like all tracks off of that record. We were like, what is this? What is this? What is this? But I remember at that time, we were walking through the lot, headed into the show, and some dude had a Mo shirt on and was walking past us. And my buddy was like, "What's Mo?" And he was like, "Oh, dude, if you like Fish, like they rock just as hard." And I think at that time, you know how like there's certain things when you're young, full of piss and vinegar, and you like want to find something new that nobody knows about, and you're like want to dig your teeth into it. All my friends were starting to jump on the Fish wagon, and I have older siblings, so I was listening to Junta when I was in 6th grade or 7th grade with my brother. So like, through my whole middle school, high school years, I was listening to this stuff and like learning about improvisation from listening to this music. So at that point, I was like, all right, I'm jumping off Fish for a while. I'm going to find out what this deal with the band Mo is. And that was like the first time. This was like before Humphrey. So it was before a band had 2 guitar players. And it, like, besides the Dead, but like a modern jam band that had 2 guitar players. At the time, I didn't experience that. So I was really sucked in. Did you get into those guys at all deeply?
A little bit. They would come. There was this. I grew up in the Quad Cities, Downport, Iowa, and there was this bar right across the river in Illinois called Ribco, and they would play there. When I was in high school, I would remember they would come to town, and this is when, and the bar holds like 250 people. Man, you know, and I there's a lot of bands that came through there that I just missed. And they were also the strictest about underage people. Right. However, one time, occasionally they would do outside shows, like for a big, and I got to see Bare Naked Ladies there before they hit, and that was a pretty monumental gig because I could just like walk downtown and still hear them and kind of stick my head up against the railing, you know, because I wasn't old enough to get in or whatever. Yeah. But that was probably 96, 97. I saw them there. Mm-hmm. But that was a big one. Another big one was Bush headlining with the opening acts were Goo Goo Dolls and No Doubt. Oh wow, that was a big one. I just missed Nirvana. They had come to that same building a little before. And it's funny. Another full circle thing is that next week, I produce a podcast with Corey Wong from Wolfpack, and next week we're having Gavin Rossdale on.
Oh, nice.
We're recording Gavin Rossdale, I should say. It's gonna be out. It'll be out in a few weeks or whatever. But
nice.
But yeah, that's another full scale or full circle thing where these people that I've been listening to my whole life, I finally get to interview them, talk to them, distill their secrets.
Dude, trust me. That's why I wanted to do this, because I was like, I get to talk to cool people that I look up to and I admire, and like, and just like talking to you. We sound like we're probably around the same age.
39.
Okay, I'm 41, so we're pretty close. But because my daughter's 9, so we have kids a similar age. But yeah, it's strange looking back on some of that stuff of shows that I went to. Because like Mo was a big part of my life, and I'm trying to get Al and Chuck on this. I've been like hitting them up.
You talk about guitar nerds, legit guitar.
Oh yeah,
legit.
Chuck had a huge influence on me as far as, because I play Strat, and like he had a huge influence on me as far as like shaping my tone. And then only years later did I find out like the reason I love him so much is because he's also a big Wayne Krantz fan. Woo. And that dude is my ultimate guy, pretty much. And I was like, no, well, there's no wonder, man. But I also like was talking to Ariel about this, or somebody recently, maybe about the Spin Doctors, Eric Shankman, like that first couple records, like his playing and hearing live records, people piss on the Spin Doctors so much. And I don't get it, man.
I love it. Their drummer, Aaron Comas, is excellent.
Yeah.
And just at this past NAMM show, I remember walking by a booth. There was a left-handed bass player sitting there, and I kind of did a double take, and it was the bass player from the Spin Doctors.
Yeah, Mark White.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Mm-hmm. And I kind of did one of those. I mean, I do that a lot at NAMM. I was like, as I'm scuttling between video appointments, I'm always like, oh, there's that guy or whatever. Yeah. But I mean, like the big one time we had Corey Feldman walk by our booth. That was a trip. I mean, you see random people, especially at the Anaheim show. I prefer the Nashville show, but the Anaheim show is great for people watching. But back on the Mo stuff, man, those guys, like how Chuck and Al intertwine their guitar lines. I mean, I wish they would tour the Midwest a bit more, just because I literally haven't had the chance to see them. And I think, they always do the summer camp festival, which is about 2.5 hours, 3 hours for me. Mm-hmm. I keep saying one day I'm gonna get to it.
Energy.
What was the last concert you saw before lockdown? Theo
Katzman.
Oh,
in Washington D.C., man. And what's a bummer is like
Joe Dart on bass.
No, it was no, it was Joe Dart. It was Joe Dart. Yeah. No, that was Lee Pardini on keys. Yeah, dude. But we were supposed to go right when they shut like Maryland down and everything. We were supposed to go see Pearl Jam here in Baltimore. Like I had tickets to go see them. That would have been I was like hoping. I was like, maybe it's only a week away. Maybe it'll happen, and that didn't happen. How about you?
I March 13th. I snuck. I saw Julian Lage in duo with Dave King from the Bad Plus, and basically like a how do you explain it? A cafe. A tiny little cafe. And Julian's another guy I've gotten to know pretty well over the years, and he a number of years ago I would have him come, and my drummer has a studio above his garage, and he would come play house concerts for me.
Oh man!
So whenever they were in whenever in the area, we'd figure it out, and he'd swing by. Like most of the time, like when you see him come, like the stuff he's done in The Office, like the Premier Guitar videos he's done. Mm-hmm. That night he's coming over, and we just take $20 at the door, and it all goes to the artist. And so he came once with the trio, and then he came once with Chris Eldridge, and they did their acoustic duo,
which is crushing.
It was like their CD, the most recent CD is like the day it was like their CD release party.
Oh man,
was that? And it was funny because he was super super sick. He had the flu or something. Oh. I knew, but nobody in that room knew.
Yeah.
And people, he'd take a solo and people would like gasp, because it was just super incredible.
There's something about strapping a guitar around your neck, man, if you're ailed. Like, if you're not feeling well, like I've had moments on the road where I was like not feeling well, and as soon as I put my guitar on, it all went away because all your endorphins are like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
unless it's a crappy gig, then I don't even know if that would help.
yeah, that's true. There's definitely been a bunch of those.
Yeah.
What is as far as like gear that you've run into? Has there ever been? So you've been surrounded by a ton of gear, but
Yes.
As far as your heroes are concerned, like people that you grew up like Clapton watching, is there, now that you're surrounded by all this stuff, is there anything that you've geeked and bought because your hero, like Doyle Bramhall, for instance? I probably own 3 pedals because Doyle uses them. You know what I mean? Is there anything like that for you that you're just like, gotta have that?
Yes. And actually, I have my bucket of pedals sitting right here. And hold on. Pause, please. There's this one that comes to mind.
Nobody buy anything from Jason on Reverb. He just knocked everything around and devalued them. Hot wired. Is that Paisley? No,
Brent Mason.
Brent Mason. Okay, cool.
Brent Mason, and that was the one that this is the one we actually reviewed. This is not the first generation, but the second generation. I think this is the prototype that Brian sent us.
Oh, that's rad.
So
what's the deal with it? I don't know anything about that pedal.
It's like a two, one side is distortion, one side is overdrive. So one side has the typical volume distortion tone with a fat, normal, and fatter switch. The other side, volume overdrive tone, fat, but it has a blend knob here. Oh, man. Has a blend knob here. So that to me is key. That is key. So that's the one that, because Brent Mason is another one of my guys. That's why I play a Telecaster style guitar. And if you've seen the Chasing Frets artwork, that's my guitar. And
okay.
It's
do your rig rundown, bro. Oh, that's super cool, man. So
this is made. It's a Schroeder Chopper TL. Schroeder Chopper TL.
Oh wow!
And somebody called this the Jason Caster because nothing to do with me, but the guy who built it is a guy named Jason Schroeder, lives in Northern California, and then it has Jason Lawler pickups in it. So everything about this guitar was probably made by a guy named Jason, and I play it. So
why not?
A guy called the Jason Caster. So
it's cool. It's almost like a mix between like a Telly, like the body reminds me of like a Telly and like a Dan Electro almost. Like
and it's pine body, and that's been the guitar I play every day for the last. I've had that for maybe 3 years. But other than that, I just have a Telly and a Strat, and then I have a Jaguar. But Telly, Strat. I'm a Telly Strat guy, mostly Telly. And I mean, if you've heard any review I've done in the last 4 years, that's the guitar that you're hearing on it. I'm finishing my review later today of Paul Reed Smith hollow body SE Paizo.
Oh yeah. I played one of those. They feel nice.
They do. They feel real nice. So this month I'm reviewing that, and I'm reviewing the Court Manson Guitars Matt Bellamy signature model.
Nice.
Which has a cool kill switch on it and stuff to do all those reuse type things.
Nice. How much were you, before everything shut down, how much were you gigging?
My band had the biggest summer on the books of our lives, basically. I mean, it's the band I play in, the Bamboozlers. We do original stuff, but we do a lot of covers too, kind of roots rock stuff. We play a lot of Jason Isbell, Tom Petty, that kind of thing.
Nice.
And we have an album out that Daniel Donato plays on.
Oh, cool. That's
super cool because we played a gig together a couple years back. And that's one of the most fun gigs I've ever played. It was maybe a 150 capacity club, packed, like shoulder to shoulder packed out. And so my band came on and we played, like, this was before our first album came out. We played all original songs that nobody had ever heard before. And they were digging it. And then Daniel's band came on and did their thing. And then the third set was my band back on with Daniel sitting in, and we just call out tunes and just rip. It was
awesome.
great. We played. There's one part where we're playing Folsom Prison, and then Daniel and I take our guitars off and exchange them, and then solo, and then swap them back.
Oh, that's cool.
That was fun. I wish we had gotten some video of that, but I don't think we did. But,
yeah.
But yeah, we were gigging pretty often. I mean, we would do our summer. From the March to September was kind of our big peak time, and then we usually take winters off because who wants to play gigs in Iowa in the winter? Nobody.
I mean, I have my first gig today since June, and it's outdoors. It's on a boat.
Cool.
In the Baltimore Harbor, and the radio station here asked us to do it. So I'm usually a 4-piece. I have keys, bass, drums, and guitar. And but my keyboard player just had a baby. He's like, I don't want to. It's not worth it. It's not worth me exposing myself. So it's just gonna be us, the radio host, and the dudes running sound with 2 more people and the guy driving the boat. And we're just gonna cruise around in the harbor.
And they're just blasting the PA blasting around.
Just driving to different neighborhoods in Baltimore, playing for 15 minutes, going to the next neighborhood, playing for 15. I was like, that sounds safe. I think I can do that. That's not.
We did a very similar thing early August. They would have sometimes they have this thing in City Square Park. They'd have a band on a Thursday night, and 1,000 people would show up. Well, obviously they're like, we don't want to do that. So what if we put you guys on the back of a hayride wagon that has rails on it, and then we go and we drive to 3 high schools or big parking lots, and basically have 3 mini drive-in sets.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I played. What I did for that is I just played a Kemper stage. I just plugged it right into the PA, and it was I brought my Fender combo, and I was like, well, maybe if I do I don't know, maybe somebody can help me with this. I haven't followed up on this too much, but I was like, maybe if I just use the power amp of the amp and plug the Kemper into that, at least I'd have a monitor coming back at me.
Mm-hmm.
But it worked, sounded good, but when I used just the power amp of I have Hot Rod Deluxe, it disables both the volume controls. So I had no way to change, other than my guitar, there was no way to change the volume.
Oh, yeah, I wouldn't like that.
And I was like, yeah, that's no bueno. So I ended up just going straight without a monitor and playing the show that way.
That's so cool, though.
Yeah.
I really am. I'm digging how people are pivoting and still making music happen, or trying to make music happen at least. Because
have you guys been rehearsing since this has all been going down? Neither have we.
Yeah. Nope. So it's just, it's playing songs off the last record and playing stuff like Use Me, and you know, we do a really funky version of Blackbird. That's my own arrangement of Blackbird. That's all electric and whatnot. And we've been playing those songs forever. So I'm I'm not worried about it. And if somebody train wrecks, which I doubt they will, I don't really care. It's just going to be good to play music, you know?
Yeah. I mean, we got asked to record a video for a local charity thing here about 2 months ago. And that was the first time we had all been in the same room together since then. And boy, was it fun just to play music.
Yeah, man.
Let's play some loud rock and it was I forgot I'm playing the first song. We're all took that felt good. But I have been, since we've all been in quarantine, we have been working on new tunes. So my Logic chops have gotten much better.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my recording stuff, I use, we did have a new song come out a couple months ago, and we had Pat Bergeson guest on it. It was an incredible. He's in Nashville. He's one of those every guitar player's favorite guitar player.
Mm-hmm.
And he plays a lot with Tommy Emmanuel and those guys, and so he plays harmonica on it. He doesn't even play guitar on the track, and he played remember that Bill Frisell Nashville record?
Yep.
He plays harmonica on that.
Oh snap! Okay.
Yeah, and so he's the real deal, absolutely the real deal, and so we got to have him, and that was cool. And we made the track, we got everything together, and then we sent it off to him, and he just sent back 2 takes, and they were perfect.
Oh man,
it was so great.
That's that. I was watching that video the other day of Corey Wong's new song with Satriani on it.
Ooh!
Have you seen him break that down? And he's talking about it.
I was there when they met.
Oh snap! Okay.
Yeah, when he talks, it's I'd approached Corey about doing a podcast. He's like, yeah, totally, I'm in. So we're brainstorming guests, and coincidentally, I'd gotten an email that day from Satch's publicist, like, hey, do you guys want to talk to Joe? And I said, hey, Corey, would you want to talk to Joe Satriani? He's like, frick yeah, bro. And so like, cool, we'll set it up. And that was the first episode we recorded for his podcast, which was Joe Satriani.
Oh, man.
And that was it. Like I was there on the line when Corey's like, yeah. And he says in the thing, he's like, I called his bluff,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And I was like, woo. So it's always fun to see people like on that level, like interact, you know, like I mentioned earlier, we just recorded with Jacob Collier. Super, super cool. That's been one of my favorite episodes we've recorded on there, but he has some heavy cats coming up on this season. So Wong Knows podcast. Next week is this coming Wednesday is Susan Tedeschi.
Oh, nice.
So that'll be great. And we have Ron Carter, you know, or Tosin Abazi.
Nice. Vince
Gill. Yeah, he has some really good cats coming up this season.
I'm going to have to send a message to Corey to see if he'll do this. If I can just pick his brain.
He's a bundle of energy. I know.
Hey, I wanted to ask you, have you played through the Cornerstone Gladio?
No, but I want to ask you about that because apparently I'm the only one who hasn't played through that thing.
Dude, just buy one. Just get one. Because it is, I'm telling you, I got it and I sold 3 pedals immediately because I was like, I don't need these 3 ever again.
Now, how does that compare to the Duelist?
I actually just did that on my YouTube channel last week.
Did you? Okay.
Put up a video of the Duelist versus the Gladio.
They're very similar, right? I mean, as far as feature set.
Kind of, but not really, because you're talking, 808 and Blues Breaker for the Duelist, and you're talking just kind of creamy Robin Ford, Dumble tones for the Gladio. So, fundamentally, they're very different. Now, I was able to get it to kind of kiss a little bit and sound similar with, certain settings and whatnot, but like ultimately, man, they're different. They're definitely different. And I love the Duelist. I use that a lot, but I guess that the Gladio for me, Robin Ford is more my speed. Like that's more of how I play. I don't play like Stevie, so I don't do the Duelist justice enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I have done gigs where like we'll play Chalk Dust Torture, and when I put the Blues Breaker side and that 808 on at the same time, that's the Trey. It's like it sounds like Trey tone.
Have you played the Jackson Golden Boy?
No, but my buddy just texted me this morning. I was like, "Do you want to borrow this for your channel?" And I was like, "Yes."
Brad, I'd say I've played the I probably have one in my bag here. The Broken Arrow.
Oh, okay.
Broken Arrow's incredible, but the thing that is so genius about that Brad did was the gain staging. That it's because usually on most of these pedals, it's like you kind of set it at what you want, and then that's what that pedal does. Like you set the gain. It's not super easy to on the fly on a gig bend down like, oh, I need a little more gain on this and you whatever. But he has it where you set the knob. I don't know if you already know this, but you set the knob at like the maximum gain you would want. And then when you hit both pedals, it cycles through the gain level in 25% increments. Oh
yeah, I did not know that. That's awesome.
So if let's say you have the gain all the way up, so you hit it once, and then that's the sound. Hit it once, it basically on the fly takes that gain knob, turns it to 25%, then 50, then 75, and then wherever. So you're basically setting the knob. The gain knob sets the maximum gain that you want,
that's
and
genius.
Then you back it off from there. I'm like, that's so smart. And then now that he's worked MIDI, I've just recently gotten into MIDI on my pedal board, and now that he's incorporated MIDI into that, you can have that one pedal like that Golden Boy in as many presets as you have in your MIDI controller. That's how many individual settings you can have. I mean, so you can, and I'm sure you've seen the Automaton, that kind of thing. It's like that kind of thing. That pedal covers fuzz, covers, Blues Breaker style stuff, covers, if you want scooped mid type sounds. All you got to do is set the knobs, save it, and program the MIDI thing. Like, go preset 4 or whatever.
That's amazing.
But so I think MIDI is like think MIDI's coming back in a big way. I mean,
I know.
it's not as hard as you think. Have you ever messed with that on your rig?
Dude, I don't know if I'm smart enough, man.
Oh,
I'll
you
be
totally
honest.
are. You totally are. I felt the same way. I have my rig right now is a Line 6 HX Stomp with a Morningstar MC6.
Oh wow.
And the Morningstar is the easiest MIDI controller I've ever found to program. You know, you just you plug it in, you set it up on your laptop, you type in all the names you want. I mean, if you can get around a Helix, you can get around this.
Okay.
It's not now you'll have some trial and error, but it's not long division, you know, it's not calculus. You just once you kind of understand what a PC is, what a CC is, how the number system works, then you're fine. It's really easy.
Yeah, I feel like the whole gig rig system that Dan Steinhardt has, like, to me seems daunting. But I can see if you're a touring musician and you've got one of those Schmidt array boards and you want to have something that's like super versatile, I can see how it's a game changer.
And those things are like that particularly is like super feature rich. I mean, there's a lot of features in there. He packed so much in there. Whereas something like the MC6 is like baby steps. Like all I really need is like I have these XYZ pedals that I want to control via MIDI. I know what settings I want on them. The real challenge for me when it comes to that is just conceptually mapping out my brain how I want to set up the menus and whatnot for a gig. So I want song by song. Am I only going to need 3 or 4 sounds on this gig? Okay, I only need 3 or 4 patches. So that to me is. So I think what I'm going to have to bring once gigging starts happening again and all that, I need to like set up a spreadsheet, and either figure out a set list way to do it. Or just, okay, here are my 4 basic sounds or my 5 basic sounds. And, here's a Marshall Crunch, here's a Fender Clean, here's a Vox AC30 thing. And then like a boost on each one of those. And then I'm set. I don't need any like super adventurous dual delay, twin amps, although it can do all that. I don't, that's not my jam.
That's so rad. I like the idea of like, having it set where you can trigger your chorus tone or your verse tone or like that stuff is so, but that's why I'm like, I feel like I'm not smart enough to do it. Cause I'm like, it's beyond me. And maybe it's not smart. Maybe it's just that I don't have the patience to sit down and program all that stuff.
Well, again, have you used any of the Helix or Kemper or any of that stuff? XFX or?
I bought a Kemper probably 4 years ago. Because I was doing some TV and film stuff. Yeah. And I didn't have any high gain amps. So I was like, this will be perfect.
Yeah.
But I sold it because I was like, I'm just an amp guy, man. I can't.
Well, that's different. It wasn't that you were intimidated by the menus and the setting it up. It was just the playing wise wasn't connecting with you, the feedback or however you want to do it. Yeah. But when it comes to the MIDI stuff, that is, it's not as complicated as you think. And like I can go to any, and I even have settings on my HX where it's like, oh, do I have an amp backline? No. Okay. Do I want to go direct? Cool. I can do that. I just ABM, boom, boom, boom. And I'm ready to go.
That sounds awesome.
I would say Michael Britt, his stomp patches are excellent. Excellent.
I've heard nothing but good things. I think I had a couple of his. Now the Tone Junkie guys are like all up in that mix too. But there's so many
great stuff too.
Yeah, it's crazy. I would probably. I mean, I don't regret selling that because ultimately what happened is I sold the Kemper. I bought a car, Mercury V. I love that thing.
I thought you meant an actual car.
No. A car Mercury V. And I played that I played that for a couple years, and then I was like, I'm about to turn 40. I'm gonna sell this and get a 2-rock. I was just like, I've always wanted a 2-rock my whole life. So, and I'm happy I did, man. But all right, you ready for the lightning round? Get down. I don't want to keep you all day. All right, so you know the rules because there are no rules.
Yep.
No time limit or anything. You
can know the rules.
If you want to do what Ariel did and explain the reasons for your answers, you can do that. If you would prefer to just bounce through and power through, you are welcome to do that as well, my friend.
Okay.
All right, here we go.
Yes.
First question, always the same.
Yep. McCartney.
Lennon. McCartney.
McCartney, because, and I'll tell you why quickly, because he's saying happy birthday to me on my 35th birthday.
Oh, well, there you go, man. Enough said. Bagels or donuts?
Bagels.
6v6 or 6L6s?
Woo. 6L6.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bruce Hornsby or Brent Midland?
Hornsby.
Dead.
Hornsby.
Okay.
Hornsby a million times over, and also Hornsby puts it over because if you hit that Bruce Hornsby and the Noisemakers live record, like 98, 99, 2000, that one, and you listen to Jacob's Ladder on there, and that train beat on that tune is incredible. Incredible.
Yep. All right, cool. I'm a gigantic Hornsby fan, so I'm right there with you.
All day.
This is a silly one. C sharp or D flat?
It depends on what key you're in.
Okay. We'll just go with that. Thundercats or Transformers?
Oh, Thundercats.
All right.
Yeah.
Slytherin or Gryffindor?
I'd have to ask my son because I don't even know what those are. Those are like Harry Potter things, right?
Yeah, man. It's the houses. All right, cool. Hogwarts
No
houses. All right,
Yeah.
You're pure of heart. I'm gonna say you're a Gryffindor, my friend.
Okay.
All right. Billy Breeze or Farmhouse?
I gotta go Farmhouse. Yeah.
I want to hear the reason for that one.
The reason is, well, the real answer is Story of the Ghost, but the reason is they kind of fully, I think that's when their songwriting sensibilities as a band kind of fully came together. And it started to, because Farmhouse was, hold on, what's the chronology between, it was Billy Breeze, then Farmhouse, then Ghost?
Yep.
Okay. So by the time they got to Ghost, they were deeper into like the funk explorations. But Farmhouse is like their pop record.
Yeah.
Farmhouse is their they're born in the USA.
Yeah.
You know, that's if I were to tell, if somebody's like, hey, where do I start with Fish? It'd probably be between Ghost and Farmhouse where to start, and then either go backwards or forwards from there.
It might have been Billy Breeze, then Ghost, then Farmhouse.
Possibly.
Possibly.
Oh, wait, because Farmhouse was like 99, 2000. So yeah, it was Billy Breeze, Ghost. So ignore everything I just said. I think so. They got Billy Breeze was a great album, and they really kind of developed their songwriting stuff there. Ghost was the experimental, funky. Who produced Ghost? I can't remember, but that one I remember being really, MoMA dance. Come on, get out of here. And but when Farmhouse came by, like even the song Farmhouse, like that's a pop song. It's goofy lyrics, but that's a straight up pop song. I mean,
oh, for sure. And then, so what did you sorry to deviate on the? Yep. Well, you know what? I'm going to ask you after this. Let's keep going. All right. So, superhero abilities. Would you rather have super strength or the ability to fly?
The ability to fly.
All right, cool. And this is the last one. This is pertaining to Dead and Company.
Okay.
Would you prefer Trey on guitar or Mayer on guitar?
A Dead and Company, Mayer. Because when Trey was the only choice for Fare Thee Well. Because he could sing those parts and he was steeped in the tradition more than John. John hadn't proven himself yet. Mm-hmm. He has now. Let's say Fare Thee Well is actually 5 years from now, and John had been touring with Dead and Company up until then I would say there'd be a case for John. But at that point in time, Trey was the only choice because they needed somebody who could sing, and and Trey had worked with Phil because it's like everybody and then there's Phil, right?
Yeah.
So and Trey had worked with Phil quite a bit, so there's a relationship there. So it just made more sense to have Trey there, and it was, in a way, it was kind of like passing the baton, because even though I don't think musically Fish and the Dead, other than the jamming, like they don't sound alike, what I mean? Mm-hmm. That it just Trey was the only choice, for Dead and Company. I think John was a better choice because Trey has his own thing with Fish, that that not stylistically, but conceptually and audience wise is too close to what the Dead and Company like. Dead and Company couldn't tour in the summer if Trey was in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now I knew it was close. There was a time there where it wasn't OTL, that it was Mike Gordon playing bass. That would have been interesting. But again, OTL's doing a great job, and John has really, really done his homework when it comes to that stuff. He's not just, blues wonder kid grown up. I'm just gonna step in here and play some Mixolydian riffs. Like he's really, really done his homework. And Andy Ellis, who I talked to, is a OG Deadhead. Like, Andy went to Berkeley in 1969.
Oh, dang. Okay.
Yeah, no, he studied with Mick like when Mick was like 24. Mick Goodrick,
That's awesome.
He saw Hendrix at the Boston Tea Party in Boston. I mean, and he was saying that after Jerry died, the only kind of Dead offshoot that has ever caught his interest has been Dead and Company, and it was like revelatory for him.
Yeah. Well, you made it through.
I did. Thank you.
Yeah, I would agree. I had a couple friends who were hating on Mayer being a choice, and I was like, "You watch, he's gonna crush that gig." And like, he's only been listening to the Dead for a year. I'm like, isn't that even more impressive? Like, he's
been listening to him more than a year. I assure you. But yeah, but the thing is, he knows, he's respectful of it. Like, I would point you to a podcast he did with a comedian called Dean Del Rey. And it's like a 3-hour, it's 2 parts, it's like 3.5 hours. But he really goes into the mindset he had when he took that gig and the mindset he has existing in that gig. Because you remember a gig a year or two ago where he played Wolf, and his feelings around that were very mixed. Like he didn't want to do it. So they had him send the guitar a couple days early so he could kind of play it and get used to it before stepping on stage in front of 25. I think, and they kept it real hush hush. But he's like, it's important to I got to keep that kind of that overt comparisons. Like I got to keep that at arm's reach. Like, cause I don't feel ready for it. And they had offered it to him before then. And he's like, I'm not, no. He turned it down several times.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense. I mean, now granted, like when people go to a show, they want to close their eyes and they want to hear Jerryisms, which is fine. And I'm sure he knows that. And he's like trying to pay his homage to it, but he's also playing for the song too. He's not trying to be Jerry, which is what I appreciate about what he's been doing. Yeah.
It's like, to me, I don't even think of it as Jerry, because you listen to Fare Thee Well and, Garcia's influence on Trey. It's like, how can you not, when you're playing those tunes, unless you're completely deconstructing them and playing them in a different way, that's how you play on those tunes.
Yeah.
I mean, Jerry invented how to play on those tunes. And so you can't completely ignore it. But I hear enough of John. I hear more of Jerry's tone in John's playing when he's with the Dead than actual, stock licks or whatever, because he's just killing that middle pickup sound.
Yeah.
On his Super Eagle or whatever. But yeah, I think they made the best choice there was. I mean, it's the same thing. I feel the same thing about Queen and Adam Lambert. Like, nobody could do that gig except Adam. I've seen it, right in front of my face. That we're too young. We could have never seen Queen and the heydays. But if you're a Queen fan, that's the closest you're ever gonna get.
Yeah, he's amazing. That dude Mark Martell is amazing too. That dude,
he is good. Yeah.
I mean,
okay, I got 3 questions for you.
3.
I got this is mini speed run.
Okay.
David Lee Roth or Sammy Hagar?
I'd probably go David Lee Roth. I'd go OG.
Okay. 212 or 112?
112.
And why is that?
I like the sound. I like the punchiness of a 112 cabinet. I always have. I had a 212 Mesa Boogie cabinet that I toured with for a long time. And then anytime I'd go back in the studio and I record with a 112, I just liked it better. I liked the punchiness of it more.
Analog delay or digital delay?
Neither. I don't understand delay.
Oh, man.
I mean, if I had to choose one, I just had that Walrus Audio D1, and I liked it, but I didn't use it because I don't use delay, and I just don't understand it. Honestly, Jason, I would rather just have a slapback. Yep, it's a great pedal. I mean, it's over my head. So, I mean, I guess if I had to answer your question, I would probably say digital because I like it cleaner. I like
okay.
You know what I mean? I like
and there's more flexibility because with analog, the milliseconds cap out at a certain time.
I mean, I like delay and I appreciate it. I just never have been able to implement it. And I was actually talking to Emilio from Cornerstone about how I wish I had just a mini pedal that was like a one mix knob and it was just a slapback.
Look at first of all, JHS Milkman. That's about as close as you can get.
Yeah.
However, Henrietta Designs out of Minneapolis, they make a lot of one tiny little square, one knob, one function kind of pedals.
Okay.
And he does a lot of like custom stuff. Kevin Henrietta, yeah. I think I'm saying that. See him at NAMM all the time. And they make a lot of cool little custom little boop boop. You just hit the
small
button.
Footprint. Nice.
It's like if you're like, okay, I know so if you had I would want one knob on a slapback echo, and that would be mix. Because I'd want to dial in the mix. But you could have feedback and tone dial just baked in.
Yeah.
Because unless the tempos of the song require different feedback levels, but if you're doing mostly rockabilly type stuff, then here's how I would do it then I put one knob on the top for mix and put internal dip switches for tone, and not dip switches but tiny little controls for tone and feedback in case you needed to tweak it for some reason.
Right, like a Jan Ray has that little small screwdriver. So
exactly.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what it is. I just like delay. I've probably had 4 delay pedals in my life so far, and I've sold them all. So I'm like, I need to stop buying them.
Oh man, yeah. Like one of the best delay pedals is Flashback.
Yeah.
But you've tried these. Oh man, get deep.
No, I don't even know what that is.
Great. It's like Eric Johnson, like Tube Driver.
Oh, okay.
AK, and then the Broken Arrow.
Yeah. So, have you played the Bloom?
Oh yeah, I reviewed it.
Yeah, that thing is awesome, man.
It's great. It's a compression workstation.
Woo, yeah. For
so
slide
good.
playing, which is what I do a lot of, man. It was so useful.
Origin Effects, the slide rig.
Oh yeah, I haven't tried that yet.
Excellent.
What's up, John? John just came in. John, we're about to bail, man. I'm sorry.
It's too late.
But yeah, dude, there's so many like pedals. I just got that exotic wah pedal. Holy crap.
We have that in, yeah.
So good. And I have the Buddha wah, the old school Buddha wah, the boudoir, which is very vocal, which Jeff Bober hooked me up with because he's a Baltimore guy.
That's right. Yeah.
So
former premier guitar columnist. Yes.
Yeah, he's a good dude, man. He's a great guy. But yeah, I don't know what it is, dude. I mean, it's the last couple of pedals. The Gladio blew me away. Ariel's Broadcast blew me away. I just got that.
They don't. We're living in a golden age where
platinum
probably, yeah, because there's not. I mean, I wouldn't say every pedal that comes out is great, but a lot of them are pretty good. A lot of them are pretty good. And especially when you're talking about, like anything Chase Bliss makes is great. Anything Hudson makes is probably great. It's just a matter of does it connect with you? And it's hard, even in reviews, it's kind of hard to make that case that like, wow, this is pretty good. But if you're not an XYZ type player, then this probably isn't for you.
Yeah. Yeah, my friend lent me the Brothers, and I was enamored with that thing, but I didn't have enough money to buy it off him at the time. But it's like that pedal really can do a lot. I mean, like if you're a guy that needs overdrive, boost, and fuzz, look no further kind of thing in one spot.
That's it. Like that, I think probably the Automaton is in a way like a better version of that.
That thing. I mean, I would love
Sliding
to try.
knobs.
Oh my god! Did you guys get that in? And you were all just like, blip,
We got.
blip.
Well, the funny thing is, it came out a year and a half ago. They had it at the NAMM show. Not this past NAMM show, but the NAMM show before.
I remember you guys walking over and they were kind of showing it off a little bit.
Yeah, and he sent it to us right after that show, and I played it, and it sounded pretty good. It sounded really good, actually. But then we sent it back, and then he did a whole bunch of work on it, as far as programming and that kind of thing, and tweaking it. So I'm sure this newer version is even better. I mean, Joel's a genius when it comes to that stuff. So, but also Jackson Audio's everything they make, I like.
Yeah.
You know, just this past NAMM show, we did the Golden Boy, the Guapo, and then there's another modular fuzz that we did. And they're all the Golden Boy is more like if you're a King of Tone guy, like Analog Man, then check out the Golden Boy. It's pretty slamming.
Okay. Yeah, Joey was telling me, I was talking to him one night about it, and he was just telling me how when he was overseas, Dan was like, you needed a King of Tone, and he was like, oh, okay. And like he like let him borrow it and play with it, and he liked it. And he was like, yeah, that's the whole thing about this Golden Boy is like, because I mean, I have Joey's High Road fuzz. I love fuzz. Yep. Are you a fuzz fan?
Yeah, I have one of those. Hold on, a fuzz that I was really digging here was hold on, dumping out fuzz. This one's really good. This OD11, that's really good. It doesn't get fuzzy, but I got one of the big box.
Yeah.
One of the big box fuzzes, you know. And,
Zach makes great stuff, man.
He does. It's funny. I was down. I happened to get to Nashville one day early for NAMM one year, and I was like, well, I got to go to Carter. Go to Carter's, and I'm just strolling around. A guy texts me, he's like, hey, are you Jason from Premier Guitar? I go, uh-huh. He's like, oh, I'm Zach. I work here. And it's like, well, hey, man. And then, he's talking about it's like, well, yeah, I have my own pedals on the side and blah, blah, blah. So we ended up doing like, I can't remember if it was that year or the year after. I don't know if he was at NAMM that particular year. He might have been, but we did a video, one of the first videos for Mythos pedals on whatever pedal he had at the time. I can't remember, but yeah, anytime I have pedal questions, I have a short list of cats that I can hit up and be like, hey, what do I think about this, or or why does this or how does this do this? And he's been a good source of that knowledge, you know.
He's a great dude. All right, Jason. Well, I'm gonna let you get back to your family, man. I don't want to take up your whole day. And thank you so much for doing this. Super appreciate it. It's awesome to meet you, man.
Awesome to meet you, and I hope I get out your way, and me and Paul Masano can have a good hang.
Yeah, man. I'm totally down to do that. So. All right, guys, we'll see you later. Next week, we've got Danny Mayer, who plays with Eric Krasno and Eric Krasno's band. And Jason, I got Alan Evans the next Saturday. Talk some drums with him, some production. So
who's on your wish list?
I mean, I would love to.
You mentioned Corey.
Yeah, I'd like to get Corey. I'd like to talk to Mark with Terry. I reached out to Kurt Fletcher about him being on. I haven't heard from him. I keep trying to get Rhett Shull. He says he wants to do it, but haven't heard from him. But my big wish list, man, is like I want to get to the mayor level.
Same here, yeah.
I would like to get there in a couple years, and I would love to talk to, like I said, Chuck and Al. I think that would be a great.
Totally do it. Next week on our podcast, we have Kirk Fletcher.
Nice.
On Chasing Frets. So that'll be coming up on Monday.
He's a good dude. He seems like such a great guy. Yeah.
Lives in Switzerland now. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's crazy. So crazy. All right, guys. Well, we'll see you next time, and have a beautiful Saturday.